Okay, cool. Everybody, thank you for coming in today. We are in our weekly community tea time. Today is a tea time for the token squad specifically, and we have a special guest, as you can see. We have Alex, who is our CTO and co-founder as well. Today we'll be talking about a few updates, specifically also tackling one of the things the community is always asking about, staking. With that in mind, I don't think we need much introduction. Passing it over to Alex. Alex, what has been happening in the tokens team and staking?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Nigel, for the introduction. I think I've met many of you before at some of the previous AMAs that we've done, but if we haven't, I'll introduce myself again. I'm Alex, and I run product and engineering at Immutable. I think the first thing that I want to start on, obviously the big question on everyone's minds is when staking. And hopefully what we're going to be able to do over the course of this AMA is A, give a clear answer there, and B, also talk about the other things that we're working on, and in general, our roadmap for how we're thinking about the token. So we've got Tom with us here as well, who's our product manager for the token, and he has been working on some awesome stuff for everyone, and I'm going to let him share some of that over time. But I want to start off from first principles, talking about the way that we see the token, the way that staking is going to work, and what's necessary for us to have before we can launch. So for those of you who've been following, you've seen that we've had sort of a big track of work over the past few months to deliver the different types of fees that are necessary for ImmutableX. So we delivered royalty fees for assets to let projects set their own royalties on the assets. Just last week, you'll have seen the announcement where we turned on marketplace fees. That's essentially going to allow every marketplace partner on ImmutableX to set their own custom fees that they want to take. Obviously, why is that in the interest of our users? Isn't that just going to let them charge me more? That's a really important thing, because what that's going to unlock is essentially incentivizing many people, including some of the biggest marketplaces in the world, to potentially launch on ImmutableX. So we're very happy that that's now out in the wild. I think Token Trove are taking advantage of that functionality already. Our own default marketplace will probably switch that on at some point in the next week or so. That's also an important move just from a price discovery perspective. The next big piece in that track of work is the one that is going to be closely connected to staking, and that's turning on the protocol fee. So for those of you who haven't yet heard how ImmutableX staking is going to work, Immutable is going to take a protocol fee from trades between users that are happening on the protocol, and we are going to allocate a portion of that protocol fee into the staking rewards pool, which is going to be shared amongst all people who are staking tokens. I'll talk in a little bit later about how we're going to define staking in the roadmap there. But the crucial thing is that the tokens that we are going to use for staking rewards payouts are going to be those generated by this protocol fee. So our goal at the moment, and what the team is actively working on, remember what Tom will speak to in a second with some specificity, is rolling out the protocol fee to all marketplaces and all market makers on ImmutableX. As I said before, this is obviously very important for building up that pool of funds, but it's also very important for things like preventing wash trading on the exchange to allow us to do rewards of different kinds. It's very important generally for price discovery, so that we can actually have fair and transparent pricing for assets, and we can make sure that volume is legitimate. This is something that we're looking to roll out over the next 5 to 6 weeks. So I think we've just rolled out the marketplace fees, and roughly 5 to 6 weeks from now, we should see the protocol fee rolling out across ImmutableX. There are some, I think there's a lot of anticipation for this, certainly on our end, but also from the community generally, who wants to see progress towards the big staking milestone. This is definitely the next cab off the rank. Having delivered the protocol fee, we're then going to move on to deliver staking. So staking is something that I know everyone is super passionate about, because it's a way for people who are highly invested in the token ecosystem to perform actions which are beneficial to the rest of the token ecosystem and to be rewarded for them. And that's really our vision for staking, and that's what we're hoping to unlock. At the moment, it looks like staking is going to roll out at some point in Q2, just based off the fact that we have to deliver the protocol fee and then turn on staking. Staking is going to be, what I can say for staking is that we are going to be releasing in 2 to 3 weeks from now a full blog post, which is going to have basically everything that you need to know about what staking will look like on ImmutableX. It'll have the designs, it will have the exact formulas and calculations, it will have all of the details of essentially what staking will actually look like when it rolls out across Immutable-X, and coincidentally also for Immutable's other tokens. So for gods and for the GOG token, we're going to be providing a massive update on all three of those actual staking mechanics at the same time. We're going to look, there will be a lot of shared commonality between the three tokens. We're going to make sure that we take advantage of the fact that this is functionality that we can offer not just for ourselves, but there's also things like lockups on L2 that we can offer to projects even beyond Immutable. Right? So we are wanting to make sure that we set up not just our own token for success, but also the tokens of all other projects that are going to be launched on L2. Okay. So I think the big update that I can share is a Q2 timeline for staking with a massive update in 2 to 3 weeks, which will have all the details, and the protocol fee rolling out in 5 to 6 weeks as the last major feature blocker before we can actually release staking.
There's one question on tokenomics from sandkopf.
Sure, I'll go for it. So this is actually a fairly common piece of tokenomics, particularly amongst reward tokens of the type that Immutable-X is. I think if you just go on CoinMarketCap or something similar and you scroll down, you'll see that a lot of tokens are in this position. Right? And that's simply because the protocol is at an early stage. So obviously the protocol has issued less than 12% or around 12% of the overall total supply. But the protocol is also doing nowhere near the amount of volume that we think it will by the time we actually have all of that supply in circulation. Our goal at Immutable is to make sure that just as more token supply flows out to the market, right, that is turned into really strong revenue generating volume for the protocol. Right? And whether there are a couple of forms of that. There's obviously incentivizing with user rewards and making sure that people are highly incentivized to trade on Immutable-X. There's also issuing developer grants and other pieces like that to key and important partners who we hope will ensure that increase in the supply of the token is more than offset by the massive increase in volume. Maybe a good way to think about it is the supply is going to increase several times over from here in terms of circulating supply. The volume we think will increase 100 plus times over in terms of the actual usage of the protocol. So I think you can look at similar tokens with similar designs, and essentially the entire thesis is to make sure you don't release the whole supply of the token at once, so that you have enough funds in reserve to incentivize the actions that you want, which is people building and people trading in such a way that actually generates revenue for the protocol.
Awesome. So to rephrase that, Alex, this means that the tokens there are for rewards, right? Like rewarding the positive behavior. That supply is actually signifying rewards.
Essentially, like those tokens are like the vast majority of those tokens are going to be given out to either users of the protocol or users of the protocol, but the key marketplaces and businesses that we need to get on the businesses that we need to bring onto the protocol to make the overall thing successful. Our incentives are the same as the communities. We want to make sure that if we're giving the token out to people, that's coming back in terms of a massive increase in overall volume. So it's a really good trade-off for us to be able to issue that token and incentivize the types of behavior that we really, really want. And that's what we need to do to actually make sure the token grows as well as we think it can.
Awesome. Moving on to the next question then. This is from DefCon. Are there any plans to launch a locked staking like Illuvium with reasonable APY until we integrate with all other major NFT marketplaces? Let's stop there. I think there's a few questions to that in addition.
Sure. So I think there are two components to this. Right. So there's obviously when we talk about locked staking, usually we mean two things. Either the tokens are locked initially, or that after you earn the rewards, the staking rewards are locked for a period of time. There's references being made to Illuvium. Illuvium are obviously doing 12-month locks. I can't provide any specific detail here, but everything all answers to all those really specific questions around what locking there will be for tokens, and there will be a locking mechanic, right? And how that will impact the staking amounts will be provided in that sort of 2 to 3 week period. We'll give you a full blog post with all the details for all the tokens. We definitely want to. I think the best way of thinking about it is we want to provide a product that makes sense for the community, right? Obviously, if the incentives to stake aren't strong enough, then no one's going to do it, and we don't have the benefit. We don't get the benefit of it for the whole community, and people aren't able to demonstrate their belief in the longevity of the protocol. So we want to make sure that the incentives there are really, really strong for people to actually stake their tokens, and obviously that comes with everything when it comes to the actual implementation of it.
Got it. I think we see a few other questions being asked here. Before then, though, I wanted to look back a little bit on the protocol fee being rolled out. Could you explain a little bit more on the benefits the community will have when protocol fees are rolled out?
Perfect. I mean, I'd say the two key benefits that I talked about before. Firstly, the protocol fee will enable the staking mechanic. So that's where the reward tokens for staking come from. So in order to generate the right rewards, that's what we need. And secondly, it's just a good idea when you have things that are trading between users. If you want to do things like price discovery, if you want to make sure that you're not having wash trading, it lets us do things like providing rewards for people trading on the exchange. That's something that we can only do if we actually are rolling out a protocol fee. So I think overall, it's going to be a huge net positive for the community.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing more about that. Next question is from Pep. Can you help us understand the precise unlock schedule of the IMX tokens? At the moment, we don't know this on a precise date basis. In addition, we don't know why Huobi received a 6-month lockup and whether other private investors also got lockups.
Perfect. I think when it comes to the precise unlock schedule, I know there's been material provided in the white paper about this, and in general, like those are exactly what people can expect when it comes to the unlocking schedule of the token. Right. At the moment, I believe we are behind in terms of distributing. Exactly, we haven't released as much supply as the white paper, and we're going to, in the form of developer grants or in the form of user rewards, and that's simply because we want to make sure that there are efficient ROIs on that for the community. I think we definitely don't want to have a token where we are incentivizing a lot of wash trading volume for a month or so, not without naming names about any similar projects, and then that volume dissipates. We want to make sure that if we are incentivizing people with these rewards, that volume sticks around for the long term on the protocol. When it comes to like, hey, there's a precise date basis, I take it the ask there is like almost like a calendar of when exactly tokens are unlocking, so people can plan around that. I think that's something we can definitely think about. We have all that information, of course. I don't think we've actually provided that in a really easy to use format. So I think I might defer to Tom there. And I also have an answer on Huobi. Tom, do you want to potentially answer that question though? You might have a more detailed response.
Sorry, I've been answering questions in the channel. So Huobi was a strategic partner of ours that helped us with the actual launching of IMX. So they did a lot of the sort of relationship building and I guess the ecosystem building for us in the early days. And we're also a private investor. Because they did come in, if you're familiar with how the tranches work with the private investments, the later you come in sometimes, and the higher the price, the shorter the lockups. They came in at a higher price than other private investors as they came in at a much later point in time as well. So their lockup aligned with the price that they received and the level of, I guess, the complementary activities they helped us with community building from the early outset.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that, Tom. Next is coming from Strong Hands. Strong Hands, I'm not sure if your question was answered. Can you share more about, will some of the lock supply also supplement staking? What do you mean? Which lock supply do you mean? Unless Alex and Tom already knows what Strong Hands is pertaining to.
Strong Hands, I'm not sure if I answered your question there, but as we roll out the protocol fee, so and just for everyone else's visibility here, when we roll out the protocol fee, obviously staking won't be live from day zero as soon as the protocol fee is out. So all fees that are collected as part of that staking pool will go back to the hands of people that stake IMX once we turn staking on. The question of over what period of time do we reallocate those, over a month, 2 months, 3 months, that will be outlined in our spec that will come out in a couple of weeks. But that's sort of a function of the overall trading activity in that period of time, the number of projected people staking, and the sort of the incentive alignment that we want to create as well.
Got it. Just to underline that point, it means when the protocol fees are live, the 20% for staking rewards is already going to be locked, quote unquote, which will be distributed to the stakers once staking is live. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying that. Moving on to Pep. This was answered in a GameStop AMA, but his question was, we don't know why GameStop didn't get a lockup as well?
Yeah, so this is something that I did answer right around the time that it happened, but always happy to answer this question again. The white paper does give us flexibility to act in the best interests of the protocol when it comes to these lockups. So obviously the traditional lockup for developer grants is the 2 years. Many of GameStop's grants were not subject to that. I think the answer that I gave there is the same that I give now. The crucial thing for us, as I said all the way through, is making sure that the long-term volume and success of the protocol is maximized. Like when you're dealing with entities like GameStop, who obviously have different risk profiles when it comes to sort of like holding locked tokens on their balance sheet and being a publicly traded company, there are some implications there. The important thing for us was, and I'll be frank with you, like there was a commercial decision that had to be made here, right? And one that was difficult to communicate with the community about because of some of those requirements on GameStop's end. This was necessary to bring on one of the biggest marketplaces and gaming brands in the world onto Untitled. And that means that this is something that we haven't done for any other partner, and it's not something that we have any plans to do again. But obviously, we think that we made the call that's in the best interest of the protocol and of token holders, which is, hey, we have to release, I guess, the best possible marketplaces onto Untitled, and we're in the same boat as everyone else when it comes to, hey, can we actually ensure that we're incentivizing future volume using the token supply?
So I'll go through some of Pep's questions now. Just bear with me. There's a lot, so I'll go through it one by one. For the private investors, questions were, the white paper indicates that private investors have a 30-month lockup and 12-month cliff. Can you clarify if that's the case for all investors?
Yes, so that is the case for all private sale investors. Huobi, as Tom said previously, were different. They came into the private sale later on at a different valuation and therefore received a different lockup and cliff. Again, the circumstances, as Tom dictated, the circumstances dictated that was what was necessary for the protocol's success and for the successful launch of the token.
Got it. Next question is, pursuant to the IMX Medium post regarding Huobi Ventures, can you confirm if they were part of the private investor group? I think you already answered this.
Yeah, I think I already answered that.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm reading through the questions now. Happy to go through each of it. So we have about the ecosystem, what proportion is reserved for daily rewards versus developer grants? I think this is detailed in the white paper. I'm happy to provide a more specific answer there with the white paper handy. Obviously, we haven't yet turned on daily rewards, and that's partially blocked by the things that I spoke about earlier. The protocol fee, for instance, actually ensuring that this is going to be real long-term volume with longevity. So at the moment, we're only issuing developer grants and no daily rewards. Second question, how many ecosystem tokens are presently unlocked versus at cliff? Presumably 175 million are unlocked now. I'm not going to speculate on a number here. I think there is I think Pep, it's fairly clear that what we're going to need to do for the community is to provide much more detail on the actual issuance of these tokens when various sections of them are unlocking, and also like the arrangements around them. I'm happy to make sure that we go away and do that. I want to make sure that we put in, I don't just answer this question as a once-off, and we actually have a really good and strong process for communicating this information. So please let us know. We're going to be providing that, I would say, even at some point over the next couple of weeks. We want to I guess you tell us what you need to know about the way that we're issuing these grants and the expected vest dates and everything on that side, so that we can give you the information that you really need to make strong decisions.
Yep, noted that down.
Next question. Given that developers may be onboarded ad hoc, is there a certain risk that the ecosystem unlock schedule may not follow the white paper? How should investors expect this information will be communicated? So there absolutely is, and I think we're seeing this already. In general, we're looking to not exceed the distribution that's found in the white paper. We only want to make these issuances if it's something that, as I said before, is going to be in the best interests of the protocol and it's going to actually provide long-term value. You could expect that information to be communicated probably not with the same regularity, but probably on, for instance, a quarterly or biannual basis, where we are rolling out, okay, here is a retrospective on the issuance that took place over the past 6 months. You won't see that on like a weekly or semi-weekly basis, simply because all of these things are in motion, and some of these things can't be announced for some period of time. Confidentiality on a partner end or something like that. I've already discussed the timing of GameStop's token allocation. The next question is, when will OpenSea be integrated? Will Untitled continue to charge 2% as regards OpenSea? Will they continue to charge 2.5%? Apart from when staking, this is the other question that I think we get asked the most frequently, which is when OpenSea. At the moment, we are building the integration with OpenSea. Like, we are in the code base, making progress on it. Obviously, OpenSea is under substantial operational pressure on their end, like if I can be 100% honest, to make sure that they keep the website live. That has not been an easy task for them over the past few months, and therefore the idea of onboarding more volume and more content, particularly of the idea of where Immutable currently does more NFT trades than OpenSea does. Right? Obviously our items are lower value, but that's something that will likely be the case forever. That's a really strong target market for us. We expect our portion of this will be completed, and then we'll work to give you we'll work to keep you on the loop on the timeline here. We don't feel comfortable saying, okay, it's going to be exactly this date, because there are two people in this partnership who are working on it together. So this is something that is important to the OpenSea team. As far as pricing, at the moment, that is the plan. We'll charge 2%. We may work out something around whether OpenSea will change some part of their fees, or whether we'll find some way to make this more economical for our users. Next question, and thank you so much, Pep, for providing these all in one piece. It makes it super easy to go through them. Happy to answer any follow-up questions you have as well. How long does it typically take to integrate a developer? When does their grant date typically start? How many tokens are they given for their relative contribution? Blue questions here. How long it takes typically to integrate a developer depends very strongly on the type of developer. Two really common developer archetypes are marketplace developers and game developers. Generally, game developers have a longer cycle time. It takes 6+ months to launch a game. I think the only time where you'll see this be a shorter period of time will be when the game is essentially already built and they just have to plug in the blockchain layer over the top, which is not usually the case. Marketplaces are usually quicker. Obviously, depending on the size of the marketplace and their feature set, it can be a little bit longer. I think for most partners, substantial partners, it's a timeline of months. But obviously, if you want to build a marketplace on your own on Immutable X, you can do it in a weekend. So there is a lot of variability here. The amount of tokens that they're given for their relative contribution depends super heavily on their existing audience, their future plans, the marketing budget on their end, the investment that they'd already made. I think everyone can see, hey, Immutable is going to issue a different grant amount to a marketplace that is just starting up for the first time, versus if GameStop comes to us, we've been working together for several months, they've got an existing content pipeline, they're spending a lot of money building and marketing a marketplace. That's an environment where we're likely to issue larger grants, right? And that's simply because we expect them to have more incremental addition to the value of the protocol. Next, I think I've already spoken around the precise dates of unlock and cliff schedule for all classes of investors, and similarly, what day of each month will staking pool payouts happen. The first will be answered. I think we do need to put together some material here, which is essentially that schedule, right? And I think we can work on that as the next action. The day of the month that staking pool payouts will happen will be revealed in that blog post that I talked about, which is 2 to 3 weeks away, which will have all of the full detail here. We want to make sure that we answer every question that people have regarding staking, so that people, even before staking actually goes live, can start to plan their strategy. Okay, there are 3 questions around the foundation, elaborating on how the foundation tokens will be deployed for liquidity purposes. When will it be messaged that any portion has been released? The foundation, and not Immutable, is the one who makes grants to developers and from whom delegates tokens to Immutable to give user rewards. We will be keeping you in the loop with any major movements of foundation tokens as part of that schedule I referred to earlier. I'm not quite sure on the next 2 in terms of the cost structure of the foundation, how much USD is required per annum for the next 3 years. If this is how much does it cost the foundation to run, the foundation maintains the funds from the public sales. Those funds do not flow to Immutable. Suffice it to say that their costs are substantially less than the funds that they have, and that a cash shortfall is not likely.
Next question is all the way down. This is coming from someone or something. Question is, have you considered not giving IMX for trading rewards and instead allocating extra to staking rewards without lockup? The trading rewards seem unnecessary to me. I guess the question is, what's the thinking for trading rewards?
Yeah, as I said before, we are very conscious for what we want to get out of token rewards in all cases, both with staking rewards and with daily trading rewards. We will always act in the best interests of the protocol when it comes to, and what we are optimizing for is long-term protocol volume. That means that if there's a design for, there are different types of designs for daily trading rewards, whether that's something where we could consider issuing them to stakers if that became necessary. We could consider issuing them under all sorts of circumstances or providing different types of incentives. I think will likely be something that we even change over time. So something that we roll out an initial version of and then look to iterate on, simply because we think that we just want to keep making progress towards really closely aligning the incentives of people who are using the protocol to those who are actually holding the token. So we want to make sure that you get rewarded for every good action that you take across the system, whether that's staking the token, whether that's trading immutable X assets, whether that's bringing your game, your piece of content, or your marketplace onto immutable X. We want to make sure that all of those are actions that we reward.
Awesome. Next question is from Reem. Are you planning any backdate trading rewards?
So I think we are not going to be releasing any details here. I think we wouldn't do this unless we were clearly announcing the exact format that trading rewards would take. I'm not going to comment on whether we would or wouldn't do backdated trading rewards. I think the only thing I'll say there is we would want to make sure that it was free from anything like wash trading or anything like that. So we'd have to be careful about what we incentivized.
Carnival Big Top. When will VV items be tradable on IMX? It currently trades, but there are no images associated with tokens or their values. Seems to happen all in the app.
Awesome. So VV is a slightly special case for the moment. They have really particular license agreements with some of their IP licensors, which means that they can only support trading inside the VV app at the moment. The way that works, right? Obviously, that's still money that's flowing around and it still produces fees for the protocol, but they are building a wallet with the VV app. Right? So everyone has a wallet as included as part of that. And obviously that wallet isn't accessible anywhere but VV. And so what that means is, hey, when you're on the marketplace, you're not going to be able to see those assets properly and you're not going to be able to trade them, right, with your non-VV wallet, because no VV user is actually going to be able to sell it to you. They're not using the shared order book, for instance. Like what I'll say here is, without wishing to speak for VV, is that we have a midterm view to move them into the immutable X ecosystem more broadly, to make sure that these assets are tradable for all users on all platforms.
Awesome. There's from Chen and Method Meme, just to they're double checking when is the release for staking.
Yeah, so both for Chen and Method, we want to get this live in Q2. We want to make sure that we do it right. We want to make sure it's successful. I'm not going to say, hey, it's which month it is going to be in Q2, and that will depend on the feedback that we receive on our initial design proposal, if anything. But we want to get it live as soon as possible. So Q2 22.
Awesome. From Brad, when Etherbots 2?
Well, look, any day now. I think we're always excited to see people who've been who are proper OGs in the NFT space. I think they're like I'm still holding my bots, and I think if other Necroid NFT projects can do well, I think who knows what might happen with Etherbots.
We're gonna get a hold of those Etherbots. Cool. From Tyrus, are there any goals in place for the protocol volume that you can share, i.e., 10 million a day by the end of 2022 or something like that?
Yeah, I think I'm not going to share any hard number here. I think obviously I know why that's useful to the community. Our goals are for as much as possible. I think if we were going to make explicit forecasts, we'd do it. Not me off the top of my head in an AMA giving estimations here. We are looking for substantial increases over and above today. And the way the strategy that we're having for that is we're going to connect all of the biggest NFT marketplaces in the world to all the biggest NFT content in the world and have them trading over the immutable X rails. And we think that there will be substantial increases in volume. We're talking orders of magnitude here versus where we are today.
Awesome. And Strong Hats, GU, maybe not related to the tokens, but any ETA on GU collectibles on IMX?
I think that's a question for the GU team. I would love to see my Genesis boards fully on IMX and Tradable, and there's just a bunch of other assets but I'm not going to comment on the timelines for that team. You can ask Clay. I think we missed a question from Pep. Pep asked about whether allowing GameStop a shorter lockup was in the best interest of the protocol. Given the volume they've been pushing through, do you think the marketplace can handle similar volumes in the future? It would seem GameStop selling has been too much and there hasn't been any buyers. Look, I think as I said before, the actions that we are going to take are the actions that are going to ensure that we have long-term success of the protocol. I'm not going to comment on individual selling actions and market movements because I think that way is a big rabbit hole. What I will say, though, is that we think that the Immutable X protocol is going to be very successful over the medium to long term, and onboarding GameStop and their pipeline of content and their distribution potential is going to be a huge part of that. So I suppose we think that we've made the decisions which are going to be best for the protocol in the long term. I think there are always conversations to be had about the strategy of that and the execution details. And I think we are working to make sure that things don't impact the market as much. But in general, we're not going to comment on that sort of stuff.
Next from sandkopf. Token burns? ?
I can't comment on anything related to token burning apart from saying that you'll see the design that we have for staking in that article in 2 to 3 weeks.
Anything that does touch changes to the token supply will need to go through governance, so you'll all be notified.
Cool. Question from Death Gun. The important question. When is the next AMA with you, Alex? I bet it's tough for Nigel to catch you for an AMA.
Oh, look, thank you very much for having me, everyone. Always appreciate the chance to sit down with the community and share what's going on behind the scenes. Obviously, I think at the moment I'm sort of stealing Tom's limelight a little bit, and I think he would be answering these questions probably just as, if not more effectively than I would, but definitely appreciate the feedback.
Awesome. I see a few other people are still asking. Pep, tough question. What do you see as a fair value for the tokens? How do you frame value in-house?
I mean, that's certainly not a question that I could answer online. The way that I would see it is obviously we look at comparables in the market, and we look at there are all sorts of different ways of valuing tokens, and it is a bit of a magic science. Right? I think there are ways that you can look around the revenue that's being generated from the protocol itself. Right? You can also look at essentially the way that the market tends to look at tokens as sort of a part of the future prospects of the protocol. I think there is no sort of hard formula for this. In general, we look at comparables and performance relative to those. I'm definitely not going to say, hey, fair value is $65.34. I think that would be counterproductive.
Carnival Big Top. Big question. Taxes. Will we have downloadable CSVs of our transactions?
Yeah, so I think on our end, our finance controller is constantly in my ear about what we can do to make both our internal lives easier, as well as the lives of our games easier, as well as the lives of our users easier when it comes to taxes. I think there's all sorts of things that we can consider doing here. Obviously, you can at the moment download all your transactions from the API of Immutable X. Right? So it's possible to write a short script that will get all your transactions. Making this easier is important to us and important to all of our customers. We're definitely keen. If there are things that we can do here, either ourselves that would help you, please share that feedback. We'd love to have it. Downloadable CSVs is a great request. We can also work with, there are companies that do specialize in these, in crypto, the actual calculation of how much you owe on crypto taxes. So we may also look to integrate with those to actually make sure that people get what they want out of it. We want to make sure that it's easy for people.
Awesome. I don't see any other new questions. The other questions Tom has already answered. Here you go. Pep, once again, MVP. At Immutable Pty Limited, you would need to release guidance revenue to the shareholders. These shareholders are also token holders, which gives them an insight into revenues at the IMX protocol. Is that a question? Sorry.
I think that's a response to what I talked about previously when it came to both the forecast revenue on, hey, here's where the protocol is going to go. Is that right, Pep? I'll say that private companies generally don't issue revenue guidance, and Immutable Pty Ltd is indeed a private company. We do have internal projections. I will say, like, those are, like, I think if you are performing an accurate assessment of the market at the moment, all of those projections will rely on our ability to get really high quality content in terms of games and really high quality marketplaces onboarded into the protocol. You know, I can show you a number here. Ultimately, it means nothing unless we're able to convert on those deals and we're able to actually connect that volume on the protocol. I will say we do want to have substantial increases in revenue guidance, and we want to find a way of, like, I definitely hear the feedback of, hey, the revenue transparency and our projections there are important for token holders. I want to find the right way of doing this to set expectations really effectively. So I'll have a chat with the team internally, Pep, and see what I can do regarding how we communicate about future deals that are upcoming. But I also, I think it is appropriate for us to be cautious from a regulatory space about, like, what we put out there as future projections, and, you know, any purchasing decisions people take on that. That's something that we'd be quite sensitive about.
Got it. Strong hands. Surprised no one has asked this. When Moon and when Mars from Apex said?
I think that's going to fall under the same category of no comment possible. So obviously, I think there is, there's lots to be excited about on our end, right? So we want to make sure that we are doing the absolute best that we can do to make people and the protocol successful, and allowing the games and marketplaces that build on us to be maximally successful. We think if we do that, then that will be an excellent result for the protocol.
Awesome. And from Method Meme, are you allowed to ask any alpha we can be excited about?
Any question that you can ask for the next 15 minutes, we'll endeavor to answer, apart from things that we can't comment on.
Shin Gemeta, I'm not sure what this question. Can I ask for more interest for Staker? Like, they can get lottery to win whitelist in some new project on IMX. Interesting. Yes, any comments there, Alex or Tom?
Yeah, I'd say that, I mean, the list of, you'll be able to see some transparent information about who's staking, and projects could always choose, if they wanted, to reward people who are committed to the IMX protocol with whitelist slots. I think we definitely wouldn't make that, or at least something we're not considering at the moment, making that, directly part of the utility of staking. I think that's something that, basically each project needs to assess for themselves. But I really like the idea. I think if I were launching a project and looking for differentiation and looking to have a pre-built community, I think looking at who'd been staking Immutable X for the longest might be an excellent idea.
So next is from Brap. Without saying something you're not allowed to, if somebody asked you, why should I own IMX? What would your answer be?
I mean, this actually, I can answer, which is that we believe that the Immutable X protocol is going to be part of the future of unique digital asset ownership. And we think it is going to be the rails for, as I said before, every major NFT marketplace and every major NFT game to trade assets. And that is an exciting vision to be a part of. There are all sorts of details about why that, what makes sense for different people at different points and different risk appetites. The ultimate thing is, this is a massively growing market and Immutable X has an opportunity to solve real, tangible problems for those people.
Thanks. From Strong Hands, any progress on Starknet?
So we have two questions. Any progress on Starknet, and Apex Dad asks about Layer 3. Both of these are things that we are working on internally. That's not to say that we are going to do L3 explicitly. We are working on it in the sense that we are going to be providing an update on the different options for settlement layers on Immutable X. At some point in the next couple of months, you can expect the same thing, right? That, hey, there'll be a big blog post well before it actually rolls out to the community, so you have opportunity to see things.
Awesome. Regarding OpenSea, do you expect the entirety of Ethereum-related volume will move to IMX systems?
Yeah, so definitely not, Pep. I think there will be some assets that just make sense to trade on OpenSea because the average trade on OpenSea last year was $3,000 or something crazy, right? If you have, I don't expect anyone to move their Bored Apes to Immutable X. the value prop's just not there, and there's a bit of a collective action problem. I think there will be lots of projects once Immutable X is on OpenSea, particularly if they are targeting, I guess a more mainstream audience or just having more NFTs, that will see Immutable X as the best possible option. So we're excited to onboard those projects onto our system.
Nice. Sandkopf, is loopring concurrent? I don't understand what that means. Alex, do you?
I don't understand what that means, but happy to answer it if you clarify the question.
Was there anything, Tom or Alex, you wanted to highlight once again?
No, nothing. I know you probably all hound Nigel all the time, but as I know it's often hard to get AMAs with some of the team, but as you think of things that you'd like from us or pieces of information or ways you'd like to also interact with us, please let Nigel know, please let us know. We'd love to keep an open dialogue as much as possible and just have as many conversations as we can. So you think of things, let us know.
Yes, definitely. And we are working on those reports and better visibility, so that's coming, definitely. Okay, here are some of the questions already. Is Loopring a competitor as an NFT marketplace? Is what Sandkopf was saying.
So Loopring, I've got to be very careful with my words here. Loopring are not launching their own marketplace. I think Loopring, like Immutable X, is somewhere where assets could be minted and could be traded. I think Loopring have not. There's not a lot of NFT content that's on Loopring, and they don't have a lot of the functionality that Immutable X has to make NFT projects successful. But they do let you mint basic NFTs. I think that's all I'll do is discuss that functionality. I won't make any comment on integration to third parties.
From Right, do you see the monthly release of locked circulation as damaging to IMX token investors?
Is it the monthly part of this that you're concerned about, or just the release of locked circulation? I mean, like certainly, whenever we are releasing locked tokens, that's going to have an impact on the market. Right? I think in most other projects, that impact is not significant. Right? Or at least in projects with high enough volume where there's strong enough demand caused by people actually really being passionate about the project. I think that's our job. Like, I'm not focused on how can we mitigate the risk of monthly drops. I am doing everything I can to onboard new marketplaces, new content, and make sure that this is an awesome protocol to be a part of, rather than sort of like mitigating around the specific things. Though I do agree with Pep's suggestion on transparency so that people can plan around these things.
Cool. What is the best way to be in contact with the company or IMX for investor relations purposes? Discord? Question mark?
Yeah. At this stage, Discord, we may, as we've been chatting about, we may look to upgrade that. But at this stage, Discord.
How is the deal going with Coinbase NFT Marketplace? Any tease you can give to us from DEFCON?
I don't think I can give you an explicit tease here. I think, obviously, we're very keen to have Immutable X assets tradable on the Coinbase NFT Marketplace. The Coinbase Marketplace is focused right now on actually getting to a launch, which is often harder than many marketplaces think that it is. Certainly at launch, it won't have Immutable X assets. What happens then? I think I'll leave to your imagination.
From Apex Lad, what is the IMX marketing strategy? If not, any plans or ideas? So
I'm going to answer this question and Antonym's question, which are the bottlenecks that are slowing down the roadmap the most at the same time. Biggest challenge that we have is hiring. We want to make sure that we have the team in place to build the strongest possible product and to win. That is everything across marketing to product and engineering. If you're someone who is a very strong person, or if you know people, we pay big referral bonuses for bringing in awesome candidates. So that's the biggest thing that you can do, for sure.
From Rubric, are there plans for IMX to release more gaming-friendly features? What does that look like? Yeah,
so we see Immutable X, like Immutable X has a grand vision for many different types of NFTs. But at the moment, in our BD and in our product sense, we do target gaming as a really core market for us. And we think we have a great product for those people. We think we already have a lot of the design decisions that we've taken so far. For instance, not having a gas fee, but taking a fee on trades. That's a design decision that we've made with the knowledge of what game developers actually need. And I think for those of you who know Immutable's history, we're one of the people who are, I'd say, are most qualified in the space to speak to what people who are building blockchain games actually need. If there are other gaming-friendly features, we're looking at things on the wallet side. We're looking at things on the SDK side. We are actively building in both those areas to bring things up to speed here. We want to make it a really easy place to launch the best possible blockchain games. If there are features that Gala or Solana have that you'd like us to have, let us know specifically. Like, we'd love to consider those and potentially add them to the protocol.
Cool. From Smithy, how will the integration with OpenSea work? Is there going to be a specific collection, or is it going to be listed as a proprietary chain? I'm not sure what that means.
So that means the answer here is proprietary chain. It will look a lot like the integration of Polygon into OpenSea.
Cool. Next is from Pep again. Have you been collecting revenues thus far, or will collection only start when you announce staking or revenue details?
So collection will start when we turn on the protocol in 5 to 6 weeks. Protocol fee.
There was some recent news about New York Stock Exchange exploring NFTs. I'm assuming you're using NFTs for more traditional finance instruments. Are you talking to these kinds of companies as well as gaming companies? From Brap.
Yeah, so we absolutely are. Like, we're talking to people who want to use NFTs for all sorts of purposes. There's a challenge here, which is we want to make sure that we actually win the market, and we can't just sort of like try to be all things to all people and boil the ocean when it comes to the product and BD strategy. Many parts of Immutable's product, even today, could be used to support those types of use cases. When we look at what our future roadmap looks like and what we're focused on, it is gaming for the moment as a big priority for us. But we talk to these companies all the time. We have a new verticals team in our go-to-market department. We target these businesses and we win these businesses. So we do care. Pep asks whether we can comment on how the 20% share of fees can evolve over time. Do you see the 2% falling as volumes increase? I think that 20% could evolve over time. It could not. We haven't provided any specific guidance here, and I'm not going to in this AMA. Do you see the 2% falling as volumes increase? I think it certainly could change. Right? Either we may introduce caps for high value assets, is something that we're considering doing. It may also, we could bring down the base number or change it to make particular deals work. We would always communicate about those things transparently with our partners. And similarly, we would also, and that includes the community here, and similarly, we would just take the actions that are in the best interest of the protocol. So if we think that by lowering our fees, we can stimulate more volume and make more money overall for the protocol, we'll do that.
Awesome. I'm conscious that we have 4 minutes left, so we'll try to answer as much as we can. Once the GME marketplace goes live, within a year, the protocol fee from the marketplace will be collected from its beginning, even though staking isn't live yet.
Yeah, 100%. So, and this is, I think, a big thing I want to call out for those who didn't know. Right, the protocol fee, as soon as we turn that on, we are going to be setting aside the funds that we've received there, right, for use once staking goes live. So the first batch of staking rewards could, I think, be a very good batch to be a part of, because there's going to be a big period of time where we're collecting that protocol fee beforehand. So as soon as that protocol fee is live, I think I'd be very attentive to making sure that we stake.
Got it. Next is, will the next partner get free IMX tokens like GameStop?
Awesome. So no one gets free IMX tokens, right? GameStop, we gave them a grant, as we do to many other developers, in order for substantial commitments on their end to build on the protocol and to make us the preferred, like essentially their preferred backend for their marketplace. The specific mechanism there, so like a non-lockup grant, right, is something that we haven't done for any other partner and are not currently intending to do again, but as I chatted about before, was commercially necessary in this case. We think we will make the decisions that are in the best interest of the protocol, always and above everything else.
Got it. Next is from Pep again. No revenues have been collected thus far. I feel nervous. We don't even know the projections IMX has for revenue. Please let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, I would say I think this is not like obviously I can put a revenue projection number out here. What's ultimately important is that, and I suppose what we're looking to build around is we want to create a very successful protocol. We want to have a substantial amount of, in particular, the high quality, high number of assets, high volume trading running through ImmutableX. And we want to achieve that goal. I think when it comes to commenting on prices or expected yields or rev projections, I'm going to refrain from doing that, I think, in this context.
Cool. From Smithy on OpenSea, how will you handle the layer 1 and layer 2 integration being separate, as we already have contracts?
Maybe I'll just race through them to make sure that we answer the times. we are aware, so like we're working with the OpenSea team. There are a couple of changes that are necessary versus something like the Polygon integration to support these assets really well. For instance, there being only one smart contract rather than there being two. We are working with them on the right way of rolling that out into the product, and that's partly why the integration isn't live already. Next ones, which are Death Gun asks, when can we know which games came on board with that grant? You'll only be able to see this, unfortunately, as we announce them and as we work with GameStop to roll that out. Of course, the real thing here is we'll just choose to do exactly what I said we would do all the way through, which is we'll announce these in order to generate the most possible protocol volume. Okay. I think we might wrap up there.
Yes, sounds good. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you. Thank you for Tom and Alex for your time. Really appreciate you hanging out. And thank you for everybody who came down and asked questions. I'm sure it's late for some of you in your time zone. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
And thank you to all those who asked detailed questions, and I really appreciate the depth with which people are engaging with this. Particularly Pep, who peppered us with questions. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk about these things with the community. If you have any more questions that you want to sort of post in the channel, we may get back to them at some point. Also, just want to give a big shout out to Nigel and Tom, who set the whole thing up today. I basically did nothing but show up. So big shout out to those two. You guys have massive advocates in Nigel and Tom for the success of the community and the success of the protocol overall. So you should be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Again, see you next time.